Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You want to sing once? Oh yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna. Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Shri Radhe, Radha Govinda Shri Radhe, Radha Govinda Shri Radhe, Radha Govinda Shri Radhe, oh Radha Govinda Shri Radhe, Radha Govinda Shri Radhe, oh Jaya Jagannath Swami Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath Swami Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath Swami Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath Swami Jaya Baladeva Shri Subhadra, Jaya Baladeva Shri Subhadra, Jaya Baladeva Shri Subhadra, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Radha Kala Chanji, Radha Kala Chanji Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha Kala. Oh Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva Shri Subhadra, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Jaya Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Panchatattva, 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 Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Srila Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Srila Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. You guys' harmonium is killing my hand.
Can I have water?
I need water. Oh my! We've been singing for like an hour, yo. I sang and then he built off of mine for 30 minutes, and then I built off of his for 30 minutes, and then we kept going back and forth. we don't need the mic. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, oh Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, oh Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Kala Chanji Radha, Kala Chanji Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha, Kala Chanji Radha, Kala Chanji Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha, Govinda Shri Radhe. Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nita Gaura Hari Bol, Nita Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Am I audible to everyone? Hare Krishna. Volume. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, okay, I'll explain the meaning of the verse. This is the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 5. Yagya Dana Tapa Karma. Activities that involve karma, that involve yagya, that is sacrifice, dana is charity, tapa is austerity. Yagya dana tapa karma na tyajyam. Tyajya is to give up, worth giving up. They are not worth giving up. Na tyajyam karyameva tat. Karya means they need to be done. Na tyajyam karyameva tat. And then again Krishna repeats the three activities. Yagya, Dana and Tapa cha eva. Also certainly. Yagya Dana Tapash. Yagya Dano Yagyo Danam Tapaschaiva. Pavanani. Pavan is pure. Pavanani is a verb, purify. Pavanani Manishinam. Manishinam, Mana is mind, Isha is the controller or the master. Even those who have controlled their mind, these can purify even them. Pavanani Manishinam. Yagyadan tapah karma. Natyajyam karyameva tad. Yagyo danam tapaschaiva. Pavanani manishinam. Yagyadana tapah karma. Nata tyajyam karyameva tad. Yagyo danam tapaschaiva. Pavanani manishina. Last time together all of us. Yagyadana tapa karma natyajyam karyameva tad. Yagyo danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishina. Om jnanatamarandasya jnananjana shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. नमा ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, I'm grateful to be here with all of you today on the occasion of the housewarming ceremony. It's a housewarming ceremony, a heartwarming housewarming ceremony. And I'll speak about this based on this verse 18 chapter from the Bhagavad Gita. I was taking an overview of the 16th chapter as a series, but in that series, the part that was supposed to be taken today evening was on hell, which is not appropriate for a housewarming ceremony. So I'll conclude that in tomorrow morning's class. So now I'll talk about this in three broad parts. First is that the Bhagavad Gita's vision of life and where one's home falls in that vision. And then we'll talk about how we as individuals can make our home harmonious with that vision. And then lastly, we'll talk about how our individual bhakti practices can help us in that. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken in a particular context and for a particular purpose. So let's look at this. What is the context in which the Gita is spoken? Where is it spoken? In a battlefield. Yes. And for what purpose is it spoken? Sorry? To pacify. Do you pacify a person to get him to fight? Sorry? Okay. Okay. Basically, it's to instruct or inspire Arjuna. And we could say the reason he was told is he was told the Bhagavad Gita because he was not ready to fight. So we could say that broadly it was to get Arjuna to fight at a broad level. Now, if oh, okay. Should I be alarmed? Okay. So now, if the Bhagavad Gita's purpose is to get Arjuna to fight, then there are several surprising things about this. First is, there are very few references to fighting in the Bhagavad Gita. So there are very few references to fighting. In the entire 18th chapter, the battlefield is mentioned primarily in the 11th chapter. And apart from that, okay, there is some entertainment for you over there. First of all, there are very few references to fighting itself. And more significantly, there are no references to the circumstantial reasons for fighting. Generally, if you say if there is A and there is B, and there is C who wants A to fight with B. So what is the easiest way for C to get A to fight with B? Yes, to demonize B. Be such a terrible person. We did this to you, and we did this to your loved ones, and we did this to your friends. Now, in the case of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, if this is Krishna, this is Arjuna, and this is Duryodhana or the Kauravas. Now, Krishna does not have to demonize Duryodhana, because Duryodhana is already a demon. He's already acted in so many demoniac ways. He has tried to poison Arjuna's brother. He has tried to burn Arjuna and all his brothers, including his mother. He has tried to dishonor and disrobe Arjuna's wife. Even one of these reasons is enough for even an ordinary person to get angry and attack somebody else. What to speak of a trained and expert warrior like Arjuna? And yet, it is significant that in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does not refer to any of these reasons even once. Not even once. And that indicates something very important. The Gita's purpose is not to give circumstantial reasons for fighting. That is something which Krishna could have done very easily. Just three verses describing the three incidents would have been enough. Three major incidents of the Kauravas attacking the Pandavas would have been enough. But Krishna does not do that. His purpose is to give universal principles for living. And especially universal principles for decision making. And it is because of this that the Bhagavad Gita has enduring value. And another thing is that who is Krishna? Sorry? He's Bhagavan. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yet, so this is something surprising about the content of the Gita. And then there's something surprising about the mode of communication in Gita. And although Krishna is God, nowhere in the Gita does Krishna draw on his godhood to insist on compliance from Arjuna. So what is Krishna's? He doesn't draw on his authority. Or not his authority, is actually his divinity, his divine authority. If Krishna had wanted to do that, Krishna would not even have needed 6 verses or 3 verses. If he wanted to circumstantial reasons, he could have completed in less than 1 verse. He just needed 6 words. I am God. Obey me. Fight. Bhagavad Gita, over. Now he does not do that. Why? Because Krishna's purpose is to appeal to Arjuna's head and heart, to his reasoning faculty and to his deep emotional faculty. So Krishna wants Arjuna to willingly choose to turn to him, to harmonize with him. And that is again remarkable. So that's why the Gita is a book of universal relevance, because of its content is not specific and its mode is not specific again. If we speak the Gita's wisdom, then none of us have the authority of God and we can't demand obedience from God. But Krishna himself is not demanding obedience. Krishna is choosing persuasion. So now so I said the first point I'll be discussing is, what is the Gita's worldview? So in persuading Arjuna to fight, Krishna builds up a worldview. And in that worldview, Arjuna naturally realizes that for him, the right thing to do is to do his duty and fight. So what is that worldview? See, essentially, that worldview centers on the idea that each one of us, none of us is an isolated individual. We all belong to various wholes that are bigger than ourselves. Each of these wholes, they give us a part of our identity and a part of our purpose. So, for example, we belong to a family, and based on our family, we have an identity. So, we may be husband or wife or son or daughter or grandfather or grandfather or mother or grandfather or grandmother. We get an identity, and based on that identity, we get a role. Mm. That's one unit that we belong to. Similarly, we may belong to a country. So if in India, we have a particular identity and a particular role accordingly. If you're in America, we have a particular identity and a particular role accordingly. We may belong to a particular profession. Accordingly, we have a particular identity and a particular role. And this list can go on. And ultimately, the biggest circle that we all belong to is God. That every one of us is a part of God. And the principle of dharma, the word dharma is translated in many different ways. But essentially, dharma means that which sustains. So that which keeps us in harmony. And harmony comes from reciprocity. So the idea of dharma is that whenever we belong to a unit bigger than ourselves, whenever we participate in a unit bigger than ourselves, we need to harmonize with that unit. So for example, if somebody is driving a car, then they become a part of the road transport system. Now, there is something which they are taking from it. What are they taking? They're taking the road facilities. Now, when we take something from it, we have to give something to it. What is that we have to give? We have to obey the traffic rules. If people don't obey the traffic rules, then there will be disruption. There can be even disaster. So, any larger unit that we belong to, we need to harmonize with that unit. Now, these larger units, harmonizing with them is called as dharma. So if you're traveling in a road, you're driving, then the dharma is to follow the traffic rules. Now it's interesting that I actually just came from UK. I was there for 1 month, and my physical jet lag is gone, but I still have a psychological jet lag. That means when the devotee is driving me, when I go toward the car, I often tend to go on the wrong side of the car. So there the driver's seat is on one side, here the driver's seat is on another side. So here which side do we drive on of the road? Right side. Now the right side is the wrong side in the other side of the ocean. So dharma can be variable, but its purpose remains the same. In fact, the traffic rules, you can say, are opposite, just across two sides of the ocean. And yet, the purpose is the same. The purpose is to facilitate smooth and safe traffic. So, the specific units that we belong to, these can be conceived in different ways. So now in today's world, we have the idea of a nation state. And now this, politically speaking, the idea of a nation state is just 200, 300 years old. People in the past had kingdoms. And those kingdoms were some kind of states, but they're not exactly the kind of nation state that we have. So that's a whole different subject, how nation is different from the concept of Rashtra that is there in the Vedic context. But these can be conceived in different ways. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita and the broad Vedic philosophy's context, it is said that we individuals belong to 3 larger wholes. Each individual, we belong to three larger holes. So one is the first hole is simply the physical hole. We are souls living in a body. That is a larger unit in which we are placed right now. Then the second is the social whole. We live in a particular society. And then there is the environmental whole. And these three are called in Sanskrit the Adhyatma. What are the other words? Adi. Adhibhut. Well, that the technical words are Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, and Adhidaiva. So these are three wholes that we belong to. And every one of us needs to harmonize with these three wholes if we are to live harmoniously. So we harmonize with the physical whole, that is called as what? Adhyatma. Now generally we associate the word Adhyatma with Adhyatmik, and we talk about the three kleshas, the three distresses. So that is true. Now in general, each whole that we belong to, that whole gives us something good, but it can also give us something bad. That can give us pleasure, that can give us comfort, that can give us safety, that can also give us anxiety, that can give us danger, that can cause us disaster. That's just the nature of the world. So now Adhyatma, Adhibhuta. Adhibhuta is the social. So these three activities that I talked about in the verse which we recited, Yajna Dana Tapa Karma. Adhidaiva is environmental. So we harmonize with these three in three broad ways. With the body, we harmonize through tapa. With society, we harmonize through dana. And with the environment, we harmonize through yajna. Now what do we mean that we harmonize with the body with tapa, with austerity? Now in one of the Egyptian pyramids, not the Sphinx, which is the second biggest, does anyone know? Giza, yeah, thank you. So on the wall of the Giza pyramid, there is a saying is written. This is that you live on 1/4 of what you eat. On the remaining 3/4 lives your physician. What it means is that we generally tend to overeat. So we often, what we eat, we live on 1/4 of what we eat. That means what we need, it's often much more than what we need to eat. 1/4 is enough to sustain us. The remaining 3/4 that we eat, that actually can stuff our body, bloat our body, and that's what gives work to our physicians. And that's why on the remaining 3/4 lives our physician. So the idea is, we often indulge in the body, we pander to the body, but in that, we often tend to harm our body. And that is why nowadays, fasting is becoming quite cool. Isn't it? You notice so many people are turning to intermittent fasting. So why is that? Because they found that is the cheapest way to maintain health. Isn't it? You don't have to take pills, you don't have to go to doctors. Just fast. That is not the easiest way. It is the cheapest way, but not the easiest way. But the point is, some amount of austerity is how we harmonize with the body. And when we are taking from the body, we use the body for our pleasure. And yes, the body is there, we use it. But when after we use the body for our pleasure, now what happens in fasting? Put aside the spiritual side. When we fast, during that time, it is like that downtime for our body. Any machine that we use, if we keep using it constantly, there will be wear and tear. So sometime the machine has to be powered off. So like that, when we fast, then the body doesn't have to work to keep processing the food that is coming in. Then the body can use that time to clean itself, to repair its damaged tissues. Now, in this way, the body's natural mechanism, healing mechanism, can be utilized. Now, this has been talked about in Ayurveda, where it says, Langhanam Paramaushadham, that one of the best medicines is Langhanam, which is fasting. Now, of course, it's not a popular medicine, but it is effective. So, basically, we harmonize with the body by doing tapa. There can be different kinds of tapa. At one level, we harmonize with the body by exercising. Now, exercise may not be pleasant unless we are habituated to it. Now, the nature of the mind is that we can become hooked to anything. There are some people who are addicted to not exercising, and some people can become addicted to exercising. Just can't stop. Even if their body is breaking down because of the exercise, they will still keep exercising. That is unhealthy. We need regulation. Yukta ahara viharasya. So regulation. But we harmonize with the body through exercise. The body needs a certain level of activity. If now that our lifestyle has become sedentary, we need to have some activity. So tapa harmonizes us with the body. Then with society. Now we take so many things from society. When we live in society, at that time, there are so many people who contribute to our smooth existence. So right now we are sitting and we are having this discussion. So it is because somebody is running the power system, because of which we have light, we have a comfortable temperature. So that is somebody doing something for us. And we could say, okay, we are giving taxes for that purpose. Well, that's true. But for society to function, there are so many things that need to work, and not everything can be legally or financially accounted for. And that is why the idea is we give dana. We give charity. So we take from society and therefore we give to society. Yagya dana. Sorry, this is dana, and then there is tapa, dana, and then yagya. Now, when we talk about the environment, in the past, people had an attitude of reverence toward the environment. We could say, if you consider the attitude towards environment, there is an there's a pendulum through which it has gone. So at the start of the age of science, the idea was the environment is it's shocking to hear this, it's evil. That is, the environment causes tornadoes, it causes storms, it causes this, it causes that. So there's Francis Bacon, who famously said knowledge is power. Now that quote is quite common and it is widely valuable, it's widely valid as a quote. But his context was technological knowledge will give us power over nature. And at that time the vision was, traditionally nature was thought of as a mother. But as science started advancing, I'm not blaming science, because associated with science, a lot of worldviews arose. They're not necessarily intrinsic to science, they were associated with science. So the idea was that if nature is a mother, she's the evil stepmother, like Cinderella had. And she tortures people. And therefore they thought technology is the means by which we will control nature. So that is the idea. If we consider pendulum, the pendulum went on one side. Now the other extreme of the pendulum is that nature is all good, and that it is we who are bad. It is we humans who are bad, and we are simply exploiting nature, and we have to stop exploiting nature. Now there is some truth to that, but it is not that nature is all good. If you just go and live in nature, well, the snake may bite you and a tiger may devour you, or mosquitoes may bite us. Nature is what it is. In nature there are good elements, there are bad elements. Nature is tough. There is survival of the fittest. So there is the idea of demonizing nature, and there is the idea of romanticizing nature. And romanticizing nature, that's what the world today is going towards. And you say that we know, for example, the vegan movement that has arisen. Now, now being vegan is definitely better than eating meat, 100 times better. But vegan says that we will not take any products from animals. And yes, the idea is we exploit animals because of that. We exploit animals for our purposes. But it's not that simple, that we will not use animals. Well, use is a very selfish word. Actually speaking, there is a natural ecosystem of cooperation. We take from animals and we give to animals. There's reciprocity. And there are many animals which actually cannot survive very well in nature without human protection. One of them is cows. Now, in Vedic tradition, what it is called is cow care, go seva. Krushi go raksha vanijyam. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that go raksha. It is, we are protecting cows. When Srila Prabhupada was publishing the Bhagavad Gita, one of his disciples was assisting him in the translation, and he said, he translated go raksha as cattle rearing. And Prabhupada says it's not cattle rearing, it is cow protection. Because the idea of cattle rearing is, you rear the cattle till they become old enough to be sent to the slaughterhouse and then be used for meat. That is not the mood. So, vegan is right in the sense that we should not be exploiting nature for our purpose. We should not be exploiting animals for our purposes. But where it can go wrong is, it almost creates an apartheid between humans and nature, humans and animals. That humans should not touch animals and animals should not touch humans. No, there can be a cooperation, there can be a healthy synergy. The biological term is symbiosis. That each organism helps the other organism and both flourish. So the idea is nature is good and we humans have made it all bad. So the one extreme is to demonize nature. The other is to romanticize nature. But in between is the balanced way, is to utilize nature. Now utilize doesn't mean in a selfish sense. It means in a functional, harmonious sense. So when we do yajna, the idea is that we harmonize with the higher forces that are there in nature. So this yajna is that, now there are some researches done in IIT Mumbai as well as in IIT Kharagpur, where they found that if we go to the Rig Veda and take the specific elements that are described in the Rig Veda for performing yajna, that smoke contains hygroscopic elements. That is, those contain elements which will cause clouds to condense and rain to come. So when artificial rains are done, not been very successful, but when they are done, what is the idea? That clouds are there in the sky, but the clouds are not showering rains. So then we take helicopters and we try to put some chemicals over there, which will cause the clouds to condense. So now, this is a mechanical understanding. And there is validity to mechanical understanding. So the idea is that yajna is the way we harmonize with nature. We harmonize with nature by acting in a way that plays our part in the working of nature. So, just to illustrate this principle, some people say this yajna, it's such unscientific. You're taking elements, you're taking grains, you're taking ghee, just putting it in fire. I think when Prabhupada was giving an initiation ceremony, I believe you had a yajna over here. Yeah, you had. So when Prabhupada was doing the initiation ceremony, at that time, it was quite adventurous. First time they did the yajna, it was a vivaha yajna that they did in Lower East Side. And the neighbors, what they did was, they called the fire alarm. Hey, there's fire in the house. Just couldn't figure it out. Why are you lighting a fire in the house? So that was incomprehensible. Later in Denmark, I believe it was Denmark or somewhere else, in that country, bananas are considered delicacy. Hmm? So when all the devotees were going to be initiated, they were giving bananas and they told to hold the bananas. And then when the yajna was nearing completion, Prabhupada said, put the bananas in fire. What? No! Nobody was ready to put the banana in the fire. And Prabhupada said, put it in fire. He said, no, this is for eating, it's not putting it in fire. So Prabhupada had to instruct them, put it in fire. So for the rational mind, it might seem you're just wasting it. Good bananas instead of eating it, putting in fire. Well, yes, that is one way of looking at it. However, we understand that there are higher principles operational in the universe. And how that interaction with the higher realities happens can vary from person to person, from place to place. I'll explain this with a quick example. When I was in UK, I had gone to Cambridge. I spoke on science and spirituality over there. So while we were going there, we passed by the tree where Newton is said to have seen the apple fall. Some people say he saw it fall in front of him. Some people say it felt it will fall on his head. Whichever way. So now that incident triggered the scientific revolution. It started the engine that is of science that transformed the world. So that tree is reputedly still preserved, and that place is like a pilgrimage place for scientists. It's a Tirtha Kshetra. So they go there and admire Newton's brilliance. And it is brilliance, no doubt. Now if you imagine if instead of Newton, a monkey had been there. And a monkey had seen a fruit fall. What would it have done? Just grabbed it, eaten it, and gone away. Most humans would have also done the same thing. Isn't it? So now, when Newton saw the fruit fall, he asked the question, what made it fall? Now it's significant that Newton believed in God. And yet, at that time, he was not looking for God as an explanation. So, if you consider the event, is the fall of the apple. Now for that, you could have, you can say put it in multiple boxes or multiple circles. We can have one explanation is God. God is one explanation, but he wanted more of a, okay, not working. Let's see if this works. Strange. Okay. Let's use my finger. Okay. So I won't write much. So you can look for a mechanical explanation. That mechanical explanation is, that's how he came up with gravity. Now he did not consider these two explanations to be contradictory. He considered them to be complementary. He saw that the mechanism of gravity is created by God. So for him, those two explanations were complementary. Similarly, some people say that, oh, these Hindus, they're so primitive. They believe that there is a Indra, as a god who causes rains. Don't they know the simple mechanism that the sun evaporates water from the oceans, makes clouds, and the clouds cause rain? Yeah, if you see, the Bhagavatam knows that. In the Bhagavatam, there is the well-known pastime of Govardhan Leela, where it is said Indra is causing rains. But in that same 10th canto, before the Govardhan Leela pastime, the Govardhan Leela pastime broadly happens around the 25th chapter. In the 20th chapter, there is, 19th, 20th chapter, there is a description of autumn season in Vrindavan. And there it is described, a person is, Shukadeva Goswami is observing nature and learning from nature. And there he says that a king should be like a cloud. Just as a cloud takes water from the ocean and showers it on the parched land. Similarly, the king should take taxes from the wealthy and give facilities for the needy. So the Bhagavatam is not unaware of the mechanical way the rains occur. But see, the mechanical way and the personal way. Personal means that there is a Devta in charge of nature. These two, the Bhagavatam doesn't see them as contradictory. They are complementary. That's why in the Govardhan Lila also, it is that Indra sends clouds to cause rains. Not that Indra is personally causing rains, it is through clouds. So the point is the mechanical and the personal both work together. So why am I talking about this? Because I talk about the principle of Yajna. So with science, we cannot discover Indra or God or Krishna. No, God is not like an undiscovered satellite around Jupiter that more scientific research will discover. God is a spiritual being. No amount of scientific advancement will suddenly produce a telescope or a microscope that will show us God. God is spiritual. But that does not mean that He is unknowable. You can see Him from His creation. So the point I'm making is that we cannot get understanding of the transcendental significance of Yajna. But the mechanical significance of Yajna, I said the scientific research is pointing towards that. As I said, when we use the precise elements, it is found that precise elements for lighting the fire for Yajna that contains some hygroscopic chemicals which cause rain to precipitate. So Yajna, Dana, Tapa are three ways in which we harmonize with nature, with three levels of reality that we belong to. And the ultimate reality that we belong to is God, is Krishna. And Krishna, when he says Sarva Dharman Parityajya, what is the next part? Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. So I was at a Gita recitation. There's a Gita Jayanti program, broader Hindu Gita Jayanti program, not a ISKCON program. And there I was asked to speak on the Gita and give some prizes to students who had memorized Gita verses. So they were reciting many verses from the Gita. And when they came to this verse, they started reciting it. Sarva adharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja. So, and everybody was, I thought one boy or one girl can make a mistake, but everybody was reciting in chorus Sarva adharman parityajya. Then I asked the organizer, why is the Sarva adharman parityajya? So he told me very interesting. He said that actually Krishna comes to establish dharma in the world. So how can he tell to give up dharma? So the Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is has become the world's most widely distributed Bhagavad Gita in the world. So there are many people who try to write piggyback on Prabhupada's popularity. So there's one author who wrote a book called the Bhagavad Gita as it was. And he claimed that actually this verse originally was Sarva Adharman Parityajya. And while copying the Gita over the centuries, one of the copiers of the Gita forgot to put the A. Now I am putting back the A. Therefore this is Bhagavad Gita as it was. Well, this is not Bhagavad Gita as it was. This is Bhagavad Gita as you want it to be. Now there are many varieties of many versions of the Bhagavad Gita, in the sense that the Shankara Sampradaya has preserved the Bhagavad Gita. The Dimbarka Sampradaya, the Shri Sampradaya has preserved the Bhagavad Gita. Thousands of years it has been preserved. Even religious scholars acknowledge that the Gita is one of the most, is the world's stablest religious text. One reason, of course, it is short as compared to the Bible or the Quran. But the point is, every traditional sampradaya has it as Sarva Adharman Parityajya. Is it? What does it have it as? Sarva Dharman Parityajya. So why is it Sarva Dharman Parityajya? Because it is Krishna telling Arjuna to give up dharma? The Prabhupada said in one of his classes that, that he was talking to his early disciple, the hippies. He said they were already practicing Sarva Dharman Parityajya. They had given up their duty to education, to career, to family, to nation, even to hygiene. You know. But he said, you are doing sarvadharman parityajya. I taught you mam ekam sharanam raja. So mam ekam sharanam raja is very important. That is the key message of the Gita. So Arjuna at the start of the Gita was caught in a dharma sammoha. I talked about we being a part of two circles. So Arjuna was belonging to a Kula. He was belonging to the Kuru Nandana. He was a Kuru Nandana. He was a part of the Kuru Vamsha. So accordingly, he had his Kula Dharma. And he also was belonging to a Varana, to a profession. And that was a Kshatriya. And as a Kshatriya, he had his Kshatriya Dharma. And in this particular situation, his Kula Dharma and his Kshatriya Dharma were pulling against each other. His Kula Dharma was telling him, these are my relatives, I should not fight against them. His Kshatriya Dharma was telling him, they are aggressors, you have to fight against them. So which Dharma to follow? That was Arjuna's question. So when we belong to various units, which unit do we follow? In Soviet Russia, when in communism rejects God officially, but it makes the state into God. And it was said that in every third person in the communist countries, in Soviet Russia as well as communist China, was an informer of the state. And those people who would inform on their family members, they would actually be specially rewarded. That means if a husband or a wife or a child, they tell, my family member spoke something against the state, then immediately that family member would be arrested and that person would be rewarded, celebrated. Just see how devoted he or she is for the state. So there what is happening is, now if somebody is speaking against the state, now should they identify themselves as the family first or the state first? Are they members of a particular family first or are they members of a particular state first? So we may have that conflict. Arjuna had that conflict. So when two dharmas pull us in two different directions, that is the time when we focus on the supreme dharma. The supreme dharma is, I am not just a member of a particular family, I am not just a member of a particular country, I am not just a member of a particular profession. I am ultimately a part of God. And as a part of God, I am meant to serve God. So when I am going to serve God, how can Arjuna serve Krishna? That is by assisting Krishna in his plan to establish dharma. So that dharma refers to order in the world. Dharma can refer to individual duty. Dharma can also refer to social order. And these two meanings should not be confused. Dharma can refer to individual duty. It can refer to social order. So Krishna, to assist Arjuna as a part of Krishna, to assist Krishna, he harmonizes with that broader whole by practicing by his duty to fight. But he is not fighting as a Kshatriya, he is fighting as a devotee. And that's why at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Karishye vachanam tava. I will do your will. Now, you may be thinking, okay, what is all this all about? What's the housewarming? So that was the occasion I said. So I was telling I will talk about how what is the place of the house in the world view of the Gita. So to explain that, I had to explain the world view of the Gita. That was so that's what I was doing over right till now. The Gita's worldview is broadly that we belong to various units and we need to harmonize with various units. And if there is a conflict between two units that we belong to, then we focus on the highest unit that we belong to, that is Krishna. And we focus on how best we can serve Krishna. So with that broad understanding, the Gita, the verse that we quoted, it says that the graha, the home, is the place, the foundation from which we can actually belong to all the higher units. Yagya, Dana and Tapa. All three are done through the graha, through the home. So we belong to a unit called the home, from where we learn to act in a way that is harmonious with all the other bigger units that we belong to. And ultimately, the biggest unit that we belong to is Krishna. So now how it works is, let's say this is our home and this is the temple. So there are progressive ways in which our consciousness becomes enhanced. So this is our home, and as we come and stay in a home, then gradually our heart, our heart becomes situated in our home. So our normal vision is that, say Krishna is in the temple, and I go to the temple and I come back. Right? So that is good. That is at one level Krishna consciousness. Where was I? I think I was in Manchester. So one person met me over there. He says, when I was in India, I used to regularly go to the Jew temple. I said, wonderful. He says, how regularly? He says, every Janmashtami. So for him that was regular. No Janmashtami I missed. I was 11 years there, not a single Janmashtami I missed. Okay, that's good. At least you're going on Janmashtami. Something is better than nothing. So Krishna exists in the temple and I go to the temple. That is the beginning of devotion. It is like most people, they go to God because they are in trouble. It is that I had an atheist friend in my college days. We used to have a lot of healthy arguments. He was never ready to listen. But a few years ago, he called me and he said that, I want to make a donation to the temple. I said, oh, really? He said that, did you have a change of heart? He said, no. Actually, I was in a job. Now I started my own business. So I said, I just want a backup plan. If God exists, He should not create any trouble for me in my business. So we go to God as a backup plan. So now sometimes we have the idea. I saw one seminar by one self-help teacher. He says, why not try God? You tried so many things in life, try God also. So for most people, God is their last resort. They try everything else. It's like, suppose a boy proposes to a girl. Please marry me. And she asks why. And he says, because no other girl in town is ready to marry me. Now that is not the most flattering of proposals, isn't it? Now if that boy says that and still the girl accepts that boy, that means the girl really loves that boy and she wants to be with him. So for most of us, Krishna is like that. When nothing else works, we go to Krishna. And still Krishna accepts us. So we think, okay, Krishna exists in the temple and I will worship him whenever I'm in trouble, whenever I need something. Krishna says even such people are udaraha. He says they are so kind, they are so generous that at least sometime they come to me. That is good. Krishna is appreciative of that. But that is just the beginning of the relationship. Then as we move forward in our consciousness, the first is so in one sense, from our home, we go to the temple and then we come back from the temple. We worship Krishna and come back. But the next stage is, we understand that there is a temple in which Krishna is present. But in our home also we have Krishna. It is not just we have a small altar in some corner of the house, which is, a small closet which we open once in a while. But the altar is a prominent part in the home and also a prominent part in our consciousness. That this home belongs to Krishna. It is Krishna's home. It is, and I am living over here. Krishna is the proprietor. And that is a further step ahead in our consciousness. And then after that, the highest step is that actually we have our home, we have our temple, and then we have our heart. And Krishna manifests in all three for us. Krishna manifests in the temple for us, Krishna manifests in our home for us, and Krishna manifests in our heart. So that is the progressive raising of our consciousness. Now sometimes in our Bhagavatam, So I said I suppose I'll be speaking 3 points, but it is not 33%, 33%, 33%. It is 80% was the first point. So now, next 2 points I'll mention quickly. Sometimes in the Bhagavatam, the home is often said to be a place of bondage. And yes, it can be. See, when a person lives in a home, at one level, taking care of a home requires responsibility. It is not easy. So many people live homeless, not just because they are penniless. It's possible many people are homeless, are penniless. But many people are homeless also because they are reckless. Now, I don't want to demonize all homeless people, but the point is that some people are just not ready to take up responsibility. They have a home, but they don't take care of the home. They don't take care of finances so that they can take care of their home. So to take care of a home also requires a certain level of responsibility. And for many people, that level of responsibility is a step higher in their step up in their consciousness. I'm thinking of something bigger than myself. Now, every larger unit that we belong to, that inspires us to think of something bigger than ourselves. And that is good. If somebody just living in a hotel, they can stay in a hotel, and when they leave the hotel room, it can be a gigantic mess. But that's not their problem. We are living in a home. If we leave our home as a mess, it is we only will have to clean the mess. It is we have to become more responsible over there. So the idea is that having a home and caring for a home can be a step up in our taking responsibility for something bigger than ourselves. The problem comes when that is where our consciousness expansion stops. So I have my home, I have my secure kingdom, and I don't need anything else in my life. And if there's God, I just not God as an additional security system for my home. I pray to God, you protect my home. Now that is where the growth of our consciousness stops. But if we are aware, like I talked about Newton, he looked for the mechanical explanation, but he was also aware of the divine explanation. He was looking for gravity, but he also knew that gravity is an arrangement of God. So similarly for us, now in today's world, many scientists are atheists. And what is it? They say that just this mechanistic explanation is enough. We don't need any higher explanation. Well, it may be complete. It may be correct, but it's not a complete explanation. Say there's an India-Pakistan cricket match going on, and last ball is there, and maybe Virat Kohli is batting, and we need a 6 to win, and the opponent bowls a high bouncer, and Virat Kohli quickly hits a hook, and the ball goes for a 6, and everybody is celebrating. And then the post-match interview, the interviewer asks, "How did you hit that 6?" And Kohli says, "By Newton's laws of motion." Now, is that a correct explanation? Well, yes, but it's not the relevant explanation. You could talk about Newton's laws of motion, what pace the ball came, what pace the bat hit the ball, what angle was the collision. If the ball had hit the bat at the edge, then it would have ballooned up, and the fielder would have caught it. So you can talk about that in the Newton's laws of motions. That is the correct explanation. But it is not the complete explanation. The complete explanation is, if you say, actually I have been practicing this hook shot for some time. Or I anticipated. It's a time most bowlers would bowl a Yorker. But I anticipated he will bowl a bouncer. So I was ready for that. Something like that. So we need a personal explanation over there. So similarly, there are multiple levels of explanation. So we can look at our home simply as my home, and I have built such a big home, and I am successful. And that's where the vision stops. Or we can see that our home is a gift given by God to us. And the home is the place where we do our responsibilities, but in a mood of service to Krishna. In a mood of service to Krishna. And when we do that, then the home becomes a vital place where we continue the expansion of our consciousness towards Krishna. It is only when the home becomes a competitor to Krishna That means the home consumes our emotions and attachments so much that there is no emotion left for Krishna. Then it is said the home can be a place of attachment. But the home cannot just be a place of attachment, the home can also be a place that is a foundation for our devotion. And that is the healthy way to look at bhakti. So the home, it can restrict the growth of our consciousness. It can restrict our consciousness, or it can aid in the expansion of our consciousness towards Krishna. It can aid us in raising our consciousness towards Krishna. And this is where Bhakti Yoga comes in. In Bhakti Yoga, we understand that everything we have is ultimately a gift from Krishna. And we treat it as a gift, we treat it carefully, and we use it in a mode of service to Krishna. So the devotional vision is to see that everything that we have is a gift from God. And whatever we have is a gift from God. What we do with what we have is our gift to God. So our home is a gift that God has given us. Now when we convert that home into a temple, we convert a home into a warm place where everyone feels, those who are living feel loved and cared and protected. Those who come as guests feel welcome. They feel valued. That is a way that is our gift to God. In that way, the home can be a place where we experience Krishna's shelter. Krishna's shelter can come through many different means in the world. And it can come also through our home. And in that way, the home can become a way in which we can come closer to Krishna. In fact, that is the example that the Bhagavatam uses. Ultimately talk about sheltering our consciousness in Krishna. It says, Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Muktah Sarva Pariklesha Pantha Swasharanam Yatha. Just as a troubled traveler after a long journey, when they go back home, they return back home, they feel so relieved, they feel so comfortable, they feel so happy. Now I'm back home. Like that, it says that a devotee's consciousness, it may go through various things. A devotee has to do their job, a devotee has to do their social obligations, their various things. But the devotee's consciousness comes back to Krishna's lotus feet. Then the devotee feels, now I have come back home. So the home, the physical home, is meant to link us to our devotional home. The physical home is the geographical, the physical structure that we have. But when we live a life of values over there, we live of devotional values, and the physical home links us. It creates a foundation by which we can attain Krishna's lotus feet. We can experience Krishna's shelter. And thus, that becomes our devotional home. So, Srila Prabhupada built temples across the world. And he wanted temples all over the world. But he also wanted every home to be like a temple. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. That wherever you are, sthane sthita, wherever you are, you stay there. But there you hear about Krishna. There you glorify Krishna. And here it's not just hearing about Krishna doesn't just mean, we hear some stories. We understand the principle of living. The principle of harmonious living. That we belong to various units. We contribute to those various units. But we ultimately understand that ultimately all those units are means through which it is Krishna who is sheltering us. It is not our home that shelters us. It is Krishna who shelters us through our home. When we understand that, then we will value the home. But we will also value Krishna who is sheltering us through the home. When Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta, at that time, for him it was a first journey outside India. A long journey. And most of the people on that ship were non-vegetarians. That's how they were. So, Prabhupada went there. He took some stock of grains and vegetables with him. But the sponsor, Sumti Moraji, she had told the Captain Pandya, to take a generous quantity of vegetables and grains for Swamiji. And when Prabhupada saw that, Prabhupada was relieved. And he wrote in his journal, I thank Lord Krishna for enlightening Sumti Moraji from within her heart to arrange for all these foods. So Prabhupada is seeing Sumti Moraji's kindness, but is also seeing Krishna's kindness. So, to conclude, we as individuals, you have to forgive my artwork. So, we live in various units. Now, what you see is that the ultimate unit, Krishna, is not just one among various units. Actually, it is Krishna who sustains all units. It is Krishna who maintains society. It is Krishna who maintains our body. It is Krishna who maintains the environment. It is Krishna who maintains our home. And thus, when we take care of these various shelters with that understanding, then these intermediate shelters, we'll value the intermediate shelters, but we'll also know that this is not the ultimate shelter. The home, it becomes a place of bondage when we start thinking of it as the ultimate shelter. But when we see it as an intermediate shelter that is provided by us, provided to us by Krishna to attain the ultimate shelter, then the home can become a very stable and essential foundation in our journey towards Krishna. So if we think of shelters, the home as a shelter, we think of it as the ultimate shelter. That is one extreme, which is an illusion. And we think of it as, the other extreme, we think of it as irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you have a home or not. That is another extreme. The idea is that we see it as an intermediate shelter that takes us towards the ultimate shelter. So with this understanding, we can treasure our home. The Bhakti gives us a vision by which every activity in our life can be connected with the ultimate reality. And that activity, that responsibility, that opportunity, it can be treasured, but at the same time, the source of all treasures, Krishna, can also be treasured. This is the vision of integral or integrating devotion. And that is what the Bhagavad Gita offers all of us. That is the way we can live responsibly as well as devotionally in this world and enhance our connection with Krishna. So I'll summarize. So I spoke 3 broad points, but the first point had 3 points, and the second, third points were just. So first point was about how the Gita it starts with Yagya Dana Tapa. So I talked about this is the idea that we belong to various wholes and we need to harmonize with these wholes. So if we belong to a country, we belong to a road, we travel on road, we have to follow the rules of the road. If we belong to a country, we have to follow the laws of the country. So we belong to society, we are placed in our body, we are placed in society, we are placed in environment. So we need to harmonize with all of those. We do that through Tapa, Dana and Yagya. Now the ultimate unit that we belong to is Krishna. So now the units that we belong to, sometimes these units may conflict with each other. Like it happens for Arjuna when his Kshatriya and his identity and his Kula identity, they pull against each other. At that time we focus directly on the ultimate identity. But otherwise, we harmonize with our various wholes in a way that we belong to the ultimate whole. We connect with and contribute to the ultimate whole. So for doing Yagya, Dana and Tapa, and ultimately for doing Bhakti, the foundation can be our Graha. That is the place where we do our various activities. And that's the Gita's vision, that the home, it can be an intermediate shelter which takes us away from the ultimate shelter, or it can take us toward the ultimate shelter. And Bhakti offers us a vision where we see all shelters as connected. I talked about how the reductionistic vision is to take one shelter, like science only sees the laws of gravity and doesn't see anything else. Then science is misused or misunderstood for atheism. But so similarly, if we see our home as the ultimate shelter, then it can make us materialistic. It can make us go away from God or treat God simply in a utilitarian way. But if we see our home as a blessing given to us by God, as an intermediate shelter for us to go toward the ultimate shelter. So then we first see God in the temple, then we see God in our home, not just seen in the sense of imagine, we have God as the altar in our home, and then God becomes a prominent presence in our heart. And in that way, our home becomes a foundation by which we can expand our consciousness towards Krishna. So the journey of consciousness towards Krishna was the last part we discussed. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any one or two questions before we stop? Yes, Prabhu. Okay. See, if we understand that Krishna is in our heart, then is there no need to go to the temple? No. It is that Krishna is manifest to different degree at different places. In my heart, the manifestation of Krishna depends solely on my devotion. In my home, the manifestation of Krishna depends not just on my devotion, also my entire family. But if I go to the temple, Krishna's principle is ye yatha mam prapadyante. As all people surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So in the temple, there are so many other devotees. Many devotees may be more serious than me. So then I get to experience Krishna as he's manifesting by the reciprocation of, in reciprocating with the devotion of everyone. So in that sense, we go to a temple because we can experience Krishna much more richly and deeply over there. Even if we assume that I am enlightened. But in the bhakti understanding, enlightenment itself is not just a destination. Enlightenment is also a journey. Because we can say enlightenment means to know and love Krishna, which is true. But Krishna himself is unlimited. So we can keep loving Krishna, knowing Krishna all the time. That's why in 10.8 Krishna talks about aham sarvasya pramatta sarvam pravartati iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Buddha. That those who know me and are devoted to me are enlightened. But in next verse he says, machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Bodhayanta. So if they are bodhayanta means they enlighten each other. If they are enlightened already, why will they enlighten each other? Because Krishna is unlimited. The way I know Krishna is different from the way you know Krishna, even if both of us are enlightened. Because Krishna is unlimited. So when I hear about how you know Krishna, my enlightenment goes further. So we go to the temple not just because we don't know Krishna, that's initial stage. But we go to temple because we want to know Krishna more. Want to know Krishna how is manifested through the realization, through the devotion of other devotees. So the altar in our home is not a substitution for the altar in the temple. The altar in our home is an extension of the altar in the temple. So when we can't go to the temple, we worship the Lord at our home. But in the temple, the Lord is manifested through the cumulative devotion of the entire devotee community. And thus the experience of him is much richer over there. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Prabhu?
So, Prabhu, like when you talk about explaining an event, you talk two things, like it's God who is doing it, or we can understand the mechanical aspect. You talked about some people get bound by that mechanical aspect. But we also see that sometimes people get bound by just saying, okay, it's God doing, not understanding the mechanical aspect. How to...
Yes, of course, that is true. To escalate everything to God's actions, that is not prudent. We want to see God, we want to be conscious of God in everything. But that does not mean we become blind to everything else. See, Krishna consciousness is to see more than what the eyes show, not less than what the eyes show. You understand that? So, I think I mentioned this in an earlier class that when the devotees had made a giant rath in London, but they didn't make the wheels of a proportionally large size. And then the rath collapsed during the Rath Yatra festival. And the devotees were shattered, and they wrote to Prabhupada, Prabhupada did the Rath collapse because of our poor devotion. Is Krishna displeased with us? Prabhupada said the Rath collapsed because of your poor engineering. So, we look at Prabhupada, look at the mechanical explanation. So, yes, attributing everything to Krishna and not looking at the mechanical explanation. That is not a sign of devotion. That can very well be the sign of irresponsibility. We have a responsibility. If a child is sick, will you say, oh, it's whatever is God's will, let it happen? No, go to a doctor. Take care of the child. Isn't it? Yeah, so we have our responsibility. We need to look at intermediate causes also. But we don't think of the doctor as God. We understand it is God's will which will act through the doctor. And it is my duty which I am doing in a mode of service to Krishna. Okay. Yes, Prabhu? Yeah. Okay. So why does the Lord descend? Yes, there are multiple purposes. When you say avatar, is a descent. There is, you could say, external or contextual. So this is becoming like a guessing context for you for what I'm writing. Okay. So external or contextual reason. That is, when Krishna comes and he establishes dharma. But that dharma is established for that time. And after that, again, the nature of the world is sakale neha mahata yogo nishta paranta. Dharma declines. That is the nature of the world. But that does not mean the Lord doesn't care. He establishes. He comes again and again. But there is, you could say, an internal or universal reason. And that is, he comes to perform Leela and demonstrate his love for his devotees and his devotees' love for him. And through that, attract our hearts towards him. So that is a universal reason. In the Bhakti tradition, that is the reason we focus on the more. And Krishna talks about this reason in 4, 7 and 8. He talks about this in 4, 9 and 10. Wow. Okay. So both reasons are here. So we could say the ultimate reason is this one. To attract our hearts. The descent of the divine is to inspire the ascent of the human. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Please, yeah. Yes. Yes, true. See, Krishna has his self-existence, independent of all of this. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avasthitaha. In 9.4 he says that I pervade all of existence sustained by me. But then 9.5 he says nachamatthani bhutani, it's all sustained by me. I exist separate. So it seems to be contradictory, but it's paradoxical. What it means is that Krishna is sustaining all other units. But that does not mean Krishna is like the Greek god Atlas who is burdened by carrying the earth. Krishna has an independent, joyful existence. So Krishna is the sustainer of all the units, and at the same time Krishna is independent. God has his self-existence independent of his functional role as the maintainer of the world. So both are true. As devotees, ultimately, see, our journey, our connection with Krishna develops from his functional perspective. Yeah, there's so many things which I have been gifted with in life, and I'm grateful to God for that. But eventually, as devotion progresses, we focus not on what Krishna has done for me. I love Krishna not just because of what Krishna has done for me. I love Krishna because of who Krishna is. And Krishna is such a lovable person. The Vrajavasis don't care whether Krishna blesses them with wealth or power, or they love Krishna because he's so lovable. So that is where our devotion progresses gradually. Okay. 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 Yeah.
appreciate the point that you brought up with how Krishna didn't rely on his authority to try and convince Arjuna of anything. He tied it into like his but connecting to like his head and his heart, like persuading him. And so my question is like, how can we cultivate that? Because sometimes it's like in the role of a father or like the role of a husband, like we kind of go. Our first start is like to be in that role of authority and like listen to me. I'm your dad, so you have to listen to me. But like, how can we cultivate it? Like maybe sometimes that is necessary, but maybe other times it's better to actually try to be more head and heart.
Well, the question is that even Krishna does not use his authority to persuade Arjuna, to impose on Arjuna. He appeals to his head and heart. So how can we also do that ourselves? Well, maybe one way is that we try out the path of authority and get frustrated with it, because it just doesn't work for very long. We try to impose on others, and people don't listen to us. That's okay. Don't blame them. They've been patient for a very long time. So, so I think over a period of time, if we see, why does Krishna not use his godhood? Because one reason is Krishna doesn't just want Arjuna to do the right thing. Krishna wants Arjuna to learn the process for deciding how to do the right thing. So if we think that as if I'm in an authority position, my purpose is not just to get the other person to do the right thing, but my purpose is to help the other person to develop their thinking capacity, their decision-making capacity, by which they do the right thing. Then we will not use the authoritarian approach so much. We'll communicate more with the other person. We'll try to persuade them. We'll try to understand them. Okay, you're thinking like this? Yeah, this part is right, but this is where your thinking is going off. So if sometimes we impose too much, we think of our responsibility primarily in terms of getting the other person to do the right thing. That is definitely a responsibility, but a much bigger responsibility is training the other person to do the right thing, in terms of training the other person to arrive at the right decision. So that's why education is not so much about giving instruction as giving vision. Instruction means don't go on that road. Vision means you look through these glasses, you can see how slippery and dangerous and deadly that road is. Yeah, I don't think I want to go on that road. So we try to share vision, then they will themselves arrive at the decision. So we change our understanding of what responsibility and authority means. Okay? Thank you. Last question, we'll stop with this.
Thank you for the class. You spoke about the household and the temple. Sometimes there's a lot of households in between. And when we're with our peers, with our communities, we're doing service, we have different mentalities, different moods or approaches, and we have conflict with other Vaishnavas. And we can see that as purification, as, realizing that you're another devotee, but sometimes that feeling or that thinking lingers in the mind, lingers in the heart, where we don't see the good in another devotee, we see what is causing us conflict. How do we overcome that feeling?
Well, so if in the devotee community we have some conflicts with some people because we see their negatives, how do we overcome that? Two broad things. First is, we can't change who we are much, we can't change who others are much. So broadly, there are two kinds of people. Some people bring happiness wherever they go, and some people bring happiness whenever they go. So the idea is that we will just not be able to get along with some people. That's just the way. It's not necessarily that we are bad or they are bad. That's just the way human relationships work. So if we consider our spectrum of relationships, said some people, being with them gives us strength, gives us joy. But some people, being with them requires strength. So when our interaction with them ends, we feel, okay, I just dodged a bullet now. We feel relieved. And we can't avoid the second category of people. They will be there in our life. What we need to make sure is that we have enough people in the positive category, that the interactions with whom give us strength. We need to make sure that we have that kind of friends, that kind of social circle. So we get strength from that social circle, And then that will give us the strength to tolerate the challenges with other people. If you're only dealing with people whom we find difficult to deal with, we will get exhausted. It's unreasonable to expect ourselves to be able to do that constantly. So we need to make time. First of all, take inventory to know who are the people with whom I get strength. And then make time to be with them for a significant amount of connection and strength, revitalization by that. That is the first thing. And the second thing is, say if I am here, the other person is here. So I perceive them through the filter of my mind. And I may see negatives in them. I can't change my mind easily. I can't get rid of my mind. But what I can do is, in our social circle, I feel this is such a demanding person, such an arrogant person, such a irresponsible, whatever negative label our mind has for them. So actually, the label is here in our mind. But what happened? The label is here in our mind, but we place the label on that person. Now, how do we get it out? By having interaction with someone else who sees them without that label. Say that, I find this person very manipulative. But somebody else said this person is so kind, so helpful. How can you think like that? So instead of labeling that person as stupid, to think like this, we say, okay, you tell me about your experiences with that person. Then what happens is, then we start seeing that, okay, maybe there's another side to that person. Maybe I haven't seen that side. Maybe I may not see that side because of the way our interactions are going on. But at least we understand this person has that side. And that way, that's why sometimes talking with others, not those who share our ideas about the other person, that will just be gossiping. But somebody who has a more positive vision of that person, we talk with them, and that can help us get a broader picture of that person. Okay? So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Itai Gaur Premanand. So, just a quick announcement. I have written some 27 books, out of which I have written some 27 books, out of which the last 4 books I brought over here. So what I spoke today is from this, much of it is from this book. This is the Gita for Daily Mindfulness. There is a section, 3 sections: nourish yourself, nourish your relationships, nourish your devotion. The last section, nourish your devotion, has one section, how to see Krishna in our daily life. So much of what I spoke is from that section. So this is the Gita from an applicational perspective. There are 365 articles, one for each day of the year. Then these 2 are more for studying the Gita. This is the Gita from a rational perspective. Question like Gita says, be detached. If we are detached, then won't we become irresponsible or apathetic? The Gita says everything is done by the modes. If the modes are doing everything, why are we considered responsible for our actions? So questions like that are answered. This 100 articles with about 80 diagrams of the kind which I was drawing. This is the Gita from a rational perspective. This follows the Gita commentator Baldev Vidyabhushan's mood in explaining the Gita. This is the Gita from a relational perspective. How the Gita is not just a book of philosophy, but it is a book of love, Krishna's love for Arjuna expressed through the medium of philosophy, and by extension, divinity's love for humanity. So if you'd like to study the Gita from the perspective of how it can help you nurture your personal relationship with Krishna, there are 100 articles in this book on that. And this is a calendar with 365 quotes. This is Gita from an inspirational perspective. So there are different quotes which are inspired by the Gita. God is not so God is not present less in the hearts of the godless. God is present in everyone's hearts. So there are 365 quotes inspired by different Gita verses, and this is also a very accessible way to share spiritual wisdom with friends and colleagues who may not be interested in spirituality. They may not read a book, but they can just read some quotes and then you can start a spiritual discussion. So all 4 are also available as a set at discount. This is currently out of stock, but we are ordering it. If any of you want it, you can just tell us and it will come to us within 10 days. And I'm also available for signing if you want the books to be signed. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna everyone. So Prabhuji is sitting here. If you want to take some personal association, any questions and you want to sign your books, please come and see Prabhuji here. Prabhuji will be sitting here. So and make little space here so that people can line up and then take the books. Hare Krishna.
बुक्स का रेट नहीं बताया आपने.
And the books, I have a chart with me. You can come to me how to pay the books and then how much is the cost. Just the big book is $25, everything else is $15, but if you take 4 together, then it is $60. Hare Krishna.